lies! You're just saying that to trick me again! From the moment I was brought here, everyone despised me. I tried, but it was over before it started!
So even if the whole world speaks ill of you, I'll tell them they're wrong. I'll defend you.
Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Geek News Marathon Night, where we take a series and we take it in marathon level doses, 3 episodes, 5 episodes, however we do it, and we give you guys our thoughts as we go along. I'm your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drac. I hope everybody's having a good day when you are listening to this, and joining me, obviously, is my lovely wife, or as some might have actually pointed out, she is the Raftalia to my shield hero, Andrea. How are you doing, Andrea?
I'm doing fine.
I don't think anybody believed you, but that's okay. All right, so we have another 3 episodes to go into with Shield Hero, and I'm officially happy to say that after this, we have 10 more episodes to go. That's it, because we are going to... So technically, there is a Season 1.5 that we can do just before Season 2 hits, and that's fine. But right now, I'm leaving it strictly to the first 25 episodes, and after this, we have 10 more left. So, are you excited to see how this thing's going to end?
Yep.
Especially considering the cliffhanger that we were left on last time?
We're always left on a cliffhanger.
Not necessarily. I mean, this is a big one. Because if you remember, this was when when the assassination attempt on Melty happened.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to wait a week. Actually, 2 weeks. To be able to get that answer. So let's go ahead and get into episode 13, The Devil of the Shield. So now it's official. He is the Devil of the Shield, and we start up right where we were, where everybody is fighting the castle guards because one of them attempted to kill Melty. And you mentioned this in the last episode, and it's a little bit more important here. For some reason, one of them has a crystal ball that is glowing, and he's just hanging back and just grinning. And while they're trying to fend off the castle guards, eventually he kind of gives a nodding signal to the captain, and the captain orders them to retreat. And we actually find out that the reason they did this was because they sent that back to the capital, where their sorcerers did a great Photoshop job and basically made it look like every single one of them were filthy bandits or psychotic murderers.
You wonder how they could do photoshopping.
Well, that's basically what they did. They edited it to their pleasing, because they even added like evil grins to Raftalia and evil faces to Philo and an evil grin to Naofumi to make them look like villains. And make it look like they have abducted Melty, when we know for a fact that's not what's happening. They attacked Melty, and Naofumi doesn't know what's going on, and they're basically kind of stuck together. And if people don't remember, their relationship wasn't the greatest. They Melty and Naofumi don't get along, and part of it is because of Naofumi's trust issues with the royal family. And this is basically kind of the crux of this episode, because now that the Shield Heroes party is wanted men and women, they have to go into hiding. Like, they can't go into towns normally. They can't do any kind of business or anything like that, because there are wanted posters all over the place. The kingdom has sent out all of these sorcerers with a crystal ball showing the photoshopped imagery of them being evil. And so at that point, like, nobody would trust them. And the capital is looking for them left and right. And so we get to have a couple of unique things happen here. One of which is Melty basically feeling powerless, because she just doesn't understand why this is happening, because her father wouldn't do this. Which, how did you take that? Because the way I took it was basically the king is basically one way with one daughter and another way with another. Like, where he's complicit and he's willing to work with mine, he's not that with Melty. Melty, I think, just kind of walks all over him. And that might be just because she is more attached to her mother, and the Queen of Melremark is the actual one in charge here. So maybe he walks on eggshells with her, because if he doesn't, then she tells Mommy, and Mommy comes back and throws all hell at him.
That would probably be the case.
Yeah, it kind of feels like that. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I was just agreeing with that.
So now for me, it also kind of goes through a little bit of development here too, because he's stuck in a situation that he can't do anything about. Because now that he has saved Melty, he has been labeled this devil of the shield and isn't allowed to be anything else. And like everything that he was doing up until that point is now all put to the back seat, because now he has to protect the girl that he doesn't trust. And so we do get a little bit of development in this episode with his trust issues with the royal family. Because initially in this episode, his goal is to go to either, I think it was Shieldfrieden that they were going to, the demi-human nation, because he wanted to use their Dragon Hourglass to level up Raftalia and Philo, and also so he wouldn't have to deal with the crown, with the crown always getting in his business. And now he can't do that because they've sealed the borders. So he has to basically, wander around in the woods and basically make it so that it's very difficult for him to be found. And while he's doing that, he also, I don't want to say he gains a liking to her, but I don't know how to explain it. He basically understands the situation, and he's not arguing with her because it would be pointless to do so.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still saying no. She's like, please come back to the capital, talk to my father, and we can figure this out. And he's still saying no, but he's not his usual self with her.
Well, you wonder how much she knows about the circumstance of what.
Well, no, most of this episode is like she knows nothing.
Yeah, so you would wonder what if Naofumi would have told her, well, this is what your father did to me, so why should I go back and talk to him?
And I don't even think if he had said it, I don't think Melty would have believed him.
Well, she probably wouldn't, but
because again, just because of the fact that her dad walks on such eggshells with her, I don't think she'd think he's capable of that. She might think mine's capable of it, but I don't think she thinks her dad's complicit with it.
It's like, yeah, because it seems like, well,
because she's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, because she's the crown princess. So at that point, she's trying to, be the good ruler and everything like that. But then she also is a little girl who is obviously being manipulated to some extent. Like even mine manipulates Melty in public. It's just mine, or Melty knows that that's happening. But the king does it all the time with her.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, it's an interesting thing, which ultimately in this episode ends with them kind of coming to an agreement that, like, they basically go on to a first name basis, and like she stops calling him Shield Hero. He stops calling her Princess. And
second princess.
Yeah, he was constantly calling her second princess, and that was a major problem between the two of them. Now they're Naofumi and Melty, and so at that point they basically both agree that this is the way it's got to be, because she's not safe. And while they're traveling, at the end of the episode, the castle guards basically catch up to them. And in that case, they try to run away in the forest, but are cornered by Mine and the other three heroes. To which we have a couple of creepy moments happen here. One of which was, I guess the spear hero thought it would be a good idea to create a cursed manacle that would stop Philo from transforming and make it so that she couldn't get away. And immediately, as soon as he catches up to her, he goes full pedo with her. He's like, now that I have you, I'll never let you get away, my little angel. Just...
that's creepy.
All kinds of creepy, right? And of course, he's also being an SIMP me! When it comes to Mine, because Mine never does anything wrong, right? Oh my gosh, she is just she has him wrapped around her little finger. Just real good. And even Ren and Itsuki are kind of on the side because of the Photoshop video. Obviously, they've been shown it. And on top of that, they, this is going too far because you've kidnapped a crown princess, right? Except Itsuki and Ren are at least willing to be able to say, okay, this doesn't look right when they catch up to them. It doesn't look like he's being evil and he's kidnapping her. And so they allow him to explain himself. To which he does. He's like, I don't trust the king with Melty, and I don't trust Mine with Melty. and at that point, like, Itsuki and Ren... No, Itsuki doesn't offer this. Ren does.
Mm-hmm.
Ren says, you know what? You come with us, and I will make sure you get that audience, and I'll make sure that everybody's taken care of, including Melty. And immediately, as soon as it looks like Naofumi and Ren have come to an agreement, is right when Mine springs a trap and casts a spell, and basically starts saying that we can't trust anything that is being said because, according to her, he has learned a brainwashing shield, which allows him to brainwash everybody that comes into contact with him, and they become his obedient servants. And so now they can't trust the words of Melty anymore because she has been brainwashed like the other two slaves of the Devil of the Shield. And I want to give you the floor for a minute because you actually called out the one major flaw in her argument. Could you please bring that up?
Are you sure it wasn't you that brought it?
No, it was you. Because you were the one that came up with it, and then I just expanded on it.
Oh. If they brainwash?
Yeah, if he's brainwashing everybody, what's wrong with this situation?
Just basic. Well, it's like, how could you then why would they have to sneak around?
Exactly! Because if you could brainwash everybody, wouldn't you, like, every guard that came across you, wouldn't you just brainwash them? Get your own little army?
Maybe you could just say, well, how come he's not brainwashing you guys right now?
Oh, she made that argument. She's like, don't look at the shield and everything like that. And it's not sticking in a lot of cases there. But I love the fact that she's basically saying that now he's gained some kind of brainwashing shield, and that's why Raftalia stays with him, and that's why Philo stays with him, and that's why Melty is forced to be with him, is because of this. Except the one flaw in the logic is, why would they be out in the wilderness?
And I love it.
And this is actually the thing that pisses off Philo. They abandon the wagon so that they don't have to carry it around so that they can get through the wilderness quicker. Why do they have to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Why do they have to get rid of the wagon if he could just brainwash any castle guard that finds them? Brainwash any villager that he comes across.
Yeah, so and I think even Naofumi just kind of says, well, that's kind of pointless.
Yes, Naofumi says it's pointless. Raftalia says it's pointless. The only one that doesn't speak up is Melty. And it's just because Melty, like, as smart as Melty is, Melty's a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
And
she's kind of like...
it's a bunch of adults fighting around her, and so she doesn't know what to do. And Philo is just Philo. Well, Philo's too busy being hug raped by our SIMP. Crap, I can't even think of his name anymore. Spear Hero. Motoyasu. So at that point, yeah. Now what's cool, so basically after that, she conjures up this big old fireball and says, sorry, Melty, I can't trust you, therefore I have to destroy you! And at that point, we actually get to see Melty defend herself, and it turns out she's actually a pretty adept spellcaster. So, yeah. So she's got something to contribute to this party, and she starts defending herself. But, more importantly... I haven't mentioned this, but like as Ren is trying to convince people that he'll be okay and he'll do everything in his power to make sure that they get treated right. Melty is already worried about going back to the capital, and Naofumi kind of touches her hand, saying, "Don't worry, I've got you." on this one. So we now have kind of that anchored trust between Melty and Naofumi.
Mm-hmm. And I love it how she's like, mine is trying to kill Melty, and it's like the other heroes are like, "What are you doing? You shouldn't be doing that."
Yeah, well, Motoyasu's not questioning it,
Mm-hmm.
but Ren and Itsuki certainly are. Specifically, Ren is. Itsuki is questioning it too, but Itsuki is if I were to explain it on like a spectrum, like Naofumi is so against mine and Motoyasu is so for it. And the way that we've kind of got here is Ren is leaning on Naofumi and Itsuki is leaning on Motoyasu.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, it's kind of weird. Plus, the other thing too that's kind of weird. We only see castle guards with them. We don't see their party members aside from mine. We don't see any of their other party members. So I'm guessing that this was something that they only took on. But yeah, so now we start to have this magic fight between the three of them. Or between the heroes, and ultimately this ends with them running across a very thin ledge and that getting broken. And Naofumi, before they run off, just tries to give Ren something, some reason to care. And I have been neglecting mentioning this in the episode, but you remember the Queen's ninjas? We get to see one of them, and they actually request that Naofumi please go to see the Queen. Instead of going to the other countries, please go to see the Queen in her residence. Because, she would like to speak with you, and he's hesitant about it, but eventually he says, okay, well, we can do that. But just so happens that this same ninja girl was the same one that warned him about the emblem of the religion, the Three Heroes Church. And so this is basically what Naofumi tries to give Ren. Because this entire episode, we've been learning more and more that the emblem that we're speaking about is the Three Heroes Church. It celebrates and deifies the sword, the spear, and the bow, but not the shield.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, like, it's very anti-shield, which now explains why the church tried to screw Naofumi every chance they got.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense? Because remember, they tried to sell the really bad holy water, and they wouldn't let them get access to the Dragon Hourglass and all that. Now we know why.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is the Three Heroes Church, which does not acknowledge the shield hero. That's why the shield hero is not on there. It's a round shield, not his shield. And so the only thing that Naofumi can give Ren is the emblem. He's like, you need to look into this, and throws him the Three Heroes religious emblem. And so that's basically like his hinting to Ren that, like, we're being set up here and you need to look into this. And that's kind of how the episode ends, is like Ren picking it up and going, oh, what's this? Kind of setting Ren on the path, so to speak. So that's where this episode ends. So final thoughts on it. Best, like, the best and worst of it. What was the best moment of this episode?
Probably, I don't know. They're all pretty good. I mean, which one do you think is the best?
I like a lot of the interactions between Melty and Naofumi, where they kind of come to that trust. But in particular, I do like where he holds her hand and is just like, "Don't worry, I gotcha." Like, I'm not gonna let them take you. Because up until this point, like, they are demanding Melty. They'll probably kill off Naofumi and his crew, but they are demanding that he hand over Melty. And so I like that concept, but ultimately, if I were to pick the moment that I like the most, it's going to be Naofumi throwing the emblem to Ren. Because remember, Itsuki and Ren have kind of been on his side, but not really. They've been off doing their own thing. They kind of have the same problem Motoyasu does, where they're still treating this like a video game. And the fact that Ren is willing to listen to Naofumi when nobody else is says a lot about Ren. So I like that moment. What about you?
Just a lot of the interactions were good,
Okay, so what was the worst? Mine's brainwashing. That was really bad logic. I mean, I expect that from woke characters like mine, but
No.
yeah, that it was such bad logic. Such bad logic.
Well, I thought that was kind of humorous in a way, but
Oh, I hated it. Just because, like, she's painting this devil of the shield because he can just mind control everybody. And I was screaming for Ren and Itsuki to just go like, well, wait, why wouldn't he have, like, a bunch of castle guards at this point? Yeah, why wouldn't he?
probably the only part.
It's almost as dumb as the jailer caring so much about the citizens of Azeroth, but in his plan, he decided to rewrite reality to prepare everybody. Yeah, I'm not going into that any further, but
Maybe for the worst part would be just the whole thing with the shield, or not the shield, the spear hero
with Philo.
Yes,
That was creepy.
That just takes.
What's fun? I have to tell this story because as soon as he latched on and he called her my little angel, I felt like this strong shaking from the other side of the bed where we were watching, and I'm like, it has to be you. Like this has to be the cringiest thing you've ever seen.
Well, it's creepy.
And I looked at you and I'm like, yeah, she's cringing right now. So yeah, I'm guaranteeing you not a fan of the spear hero at all,
Well,
right?
I think he just.
Can we please send him back for being a pedo? He's pedo, he's pro moe, he's simp, beta, cuck, whatever you want to call him. In fact, I need to go talk to the person who makes Cuckold Simulator and have him make a spear hero skin. So my worst moment is mine. So at this point, out of 5 stars, what would we give this episode? I'm trying to remember the Devil of the Shield.
I would say maybe
4.
4.
I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the overall arc here wasn't necessarily mine being stupid. It was Melty and Naofumi getting to trust each other.
Oh yeah, I think that was a good moment.
Yeah, because, a lot of this has been Naofumi just doesn't want to trust her, and Raftalia trying to kind of slowly get him on board. Because we understand, but he is pretty hard-headed with this. Because it doesn't necessarily mean that Melty is going to betray him like those two have. So I like that. I like that they kind of slowly turn Naofumi over and also showed that Melty has some issues as well that she needs to work out.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that. So I'll give it a 4. And you were giving it a 4 too, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go to episode 14, Everlasting Memory. So this is where they officially decide we're going to go to the Queen. So up until that point, they were considering it, but now, in light of the invasion of Mine, and also, we should point this out, that in order to find the shield hero, Mine orders that the forest that they were in be burned in order to smoke them out. And so, like, we're now seeing, like, full wanton destruction from Mine in order to get the shield hero. And so at that point, like, they officially agree we're going to go to the Queen to figure this stuff out. Until then, we need a place to go in between that. And so what Melty proposes is they go to, I can't remember what the area is called. I think it's Sayet, where the area is kind to demi-humans. So at that point, they would be more lenient towards the shield hero's cause. And it just so happens that Melty considers the Lord there to be a noble friend. So they start heading to Sayet, and this actually kind of sparks some memories for Raftalia, because it turns out that so she wasn't from Loon Village. She actually was from the Sayet area. That was where her home village was before she was sold into slavery. So she's kind of looking at like, okay, well, I get to go home, but we also kind of get this hinting that like there's some bad memories there that she hasn't dealt with. In fact, one of the things that's interesting about this episode is that if people remember Raftalia's nightmares, turns out they've still been happening this entire time. And the closer they get to Sayet, we have a moment in an inn somewhere where Naofumi, like, they're all taking watch, and Naofumi is taking watch one night, and Raftalia is having a nightmare again. And so he tries to calm her down. And so obviously this is kind of not creating a good situation for her. So they get to Sayet and they meet with the guy. I can't remember his name for the life of me, but we're going to go with Pretty Boy because he is that pretty boy stereotype of anime. Pretty boy, blue hair, all that stuff, and has glasses. So if you guys want to get mad at me, fine.
Wasn't he a nobleman or?
He was a nobleman. I want to say his name was Raidguard or something like that, but Pretty Boy. We're gonna go with Pretty Boy. So Pretty Boy just kind of explains the situation in Sayet and what's been going on with the crown since the abduction of Melty, and also, this is one of the weird things with Naofumi. He doesn't trust anybody. And so he has to go through this like trust test with Pretty Boy, and Raftalia is kind of getting on his case about that too. And they kind of figure all that stuff out, and we get a little bit of a backstory where we're finding out that a little bit more about the story behind Raftalia's village.
Mm-hmm.
So she lost her parents in the wave. That happened. But it turns out that when their village tried to rebuild, a pack of royal guards or royal knights came to the village and raided it and basically gathered them all up as slaves and sent them to a neighboring territory to be inducted into the slave trade. So at that point, like, we find out that happened, and now Fumi gets to learn a little bit more about Raftalia's history. And it's actually here, I think, when we notice that the nightmares get more prevalent. Because now she's in the Sayet area. And in the meantime, we're also getting all of these memories of Raftalia as a little girl and playing with her friends before the wave and then after.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where the kids try to rally everybody to remake the village. So that night, unfortunately, things heat back up again, because the neighboring lord in the neighboring territory has come in to remove Pretty Boy from his position and to have taken over. Why? Because, well, he is not only loyal to the crown, he's also wearing a three heroes emblem. So he's loyal to the church. And immediately that's a big problem. In fact, we were making fun of his appearance because he just looks like a bad guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's got like one of those tiny mustaches. Of course that's evil. The only person that I've been able to see the tiny mustache pulled off and wasn't evil was our buddy Alex Louis Armstrong. Okay? That's it. And he's just fucking silly. But this guy is pudgy and has that mustache, and he's not trustworthy at all. And in fact, one of the things that Melty is dealing with in this entire time is she's hearing about the plight of all the demi-humans and the subjects of Melremark, and she's feeling like, as the crown princess, she has not done anything. Nobody's done anything for these people. And that's the biggest crime ever. And so she actually decides it's time to step up and gives herself up so that Naofumi, Raftalia, and Philo can get out of there. But unfortunately, it doesn't really work. I mean, they still are. They're able to get away, but Melty is then taken to his mansion, along with Pretty Boy, and so it's already looking bad because Melty's now been abducted. And what makes this even worse is that Naofumi's opinion of Melty has changed quite a bit. And now he is of the opinion that they can't just leave her with Creepy Dude.
Creepy.
Well, he is creepy.
Oh, yes.
And so he actually says, no, we can't do this. We have to go save her. So at that point, we've now in 2 episodes seen him not only begin to trust her, but also want to go save her. So, yay for Naofumi. He's conquering his personal demons, right? And that's pretty much kind of the wrap-up of this episode. Best moment of the episode.
I probably would like. I like the whole that Melty just tries to find a way to get them out of the.
Yeah, she hands herself over.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's almost like she's trying to be a proper monarch. I will say one of the better moments for me was actually Naofumi wanting to go save Melty. Because up until this point, like, he's still kind of 50-50 with her. It's very clear he cares more for Philo and Raftalia than he does for her. They have just kind of this amiable relationship. So the fact that he wants to save her is definitely a major change from what we've seen in previous episodes. What was the worst part of this episode? Creepy dude showing up.
Yeah.
Creepy dude showing up. Especially when they focused on his Three Heroes church emblem. I was like, oh, fuck. Here we go again. So that's my worst. What about you?
Just anything dealing with that guy. It's just
Creepy dude.
Yeah, he can never.
I don't know his name either, guys. Creepy dude. That's who he is.
Let's see. A nobleman Van Recknot. Recknot.
So Von Recknot would probably be Pretty Boy.
Probably him.
Or no, it was Reichenot, is how they said it.
Okay.
Pretty Boy. What do you want to call me? What do you want me to have him be called? Bishonen Batman? I'll do that too. Bishonen Batman.
Rabiers is the other guy, I think.
Creepy dude. I came up with better names.
You can.
So at that point, we've gone over best. No, you haven't gone over your word. No, you said anything involving creepy dude.
Yeah, it was the.
So, out of 5, what would we give this?
Probably just.
I will also put in a funny moment of the episode: the taste testing. That was hilarious. Like, they immediately assumed Pretty Boy was trying to poison them, and immediately points go out to Pretty Boy because he solved the problem. He immediately picks up one of the potatoes or something like that and eats it. It's like, see, I haven't poisoned you. And then immediately Naofumi, who Philo's been yelling at because she wants to eat, and he's like, no, we could have been poisoned. Immediately is like, well, what the fuck is wrong with you, Philo? Go ahead and eat.
Yeah, just
I love how he changes in personality there. That's great. But yeah, out of 5.
I'll just
3.
3.5.
Yeah, I'm not there. Like this is filler. Mm-hmm. This is filler. I'm totally on board with saying it's filler. So without further ado, let's get into the final episode, Raftalia, which this one is it safe to say that this one gets the Prozac shot award? Because you needed a shot of Prozac after watching this. You needed your happy pills right away after this. Because so up until this point, we've been getting nothing but teasings of Raftalia's history after the wave happened. Mm-hmm. And then she got sold into slavery. And this continues in this story where her and her friend Rifana, I think is how her name is said. Her and her friend Rifana were taken to this guy's mansion. And it turns out that he very much is in the slave trade. And what makes it even worse, he likes to torture demihumans in the basement. So guess where Rifana and Raftalia are put? In the basement!
Yep.
So this guy is getting the Good Samaritan Award, right? Hell no. So we're getting little teasings of like how their life was up until that point while they are sneaking in, because Raftalia already is having like post-traumatic stress. It's not a good situation for her to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Safe to say, she's already having some issues. But I like how Naofumi is cruising through the castle. He's basically using his poison resistance shield to like poke put venom in the guards, and basically saying like, you've been poisoned with a very bad poison, and I'm the only one that has the antidote. You want the antidote? Take me to your leader. I love how that was done. That was great. That should be done in so many other movies. It's like, oh yeah, I poisoned you with something very potent. You want the antidote? Take me to your leader, motherfucker. Go ahead and do it.
Well, that's the only...
Oh, you don't want to take me there? Okay, go ahead and die. I like how he did that. That was smart of Naofumi. So ultimately it works. They finally get to Naofumi, or they finally get to Creepy Dude, who is having a conversation with Melty about, how he is totally loyal to the Three Heroes Church and that God will smite the wicked and everything like. Dude is crazy. Dude, safe to say, dude is knuckin' futz. He is out of his gourd. And on top of that, we also find out that he's got a fetish for seeing terror in little girls. Because remember, like, when he's torturing Raftalia, he wants her to scream. He wants her to writhe. He wants her to be in pain, and he wants to see her face. And so he's like, go ahead, cry! And we'll get to that in a minute. But, like, this is his thing, and we actually get to see that same interaction with Melty. And it's safe to say creepy there, too.
Oh, yes.
And then we have the emergence of what I would like to call Bad Raftalia. Because she kind of becomes this quiet Avenger type, and she actually confronts this guy. Like, he's swinging a whip around trying to get Melty in line and also taking care of the shield hero, but Raftalia just starts slowly walking towards him, and you can already tell, like, because she's having a tail erection. I'm sorry, I have to mention this. So they have a moment where he comes out in the previous episode, and immediately she pulls what I like to call a Studio Ghibli. Let me explain this because you weren't privy to that. Whenever the bad guy comes out to the lead female character in a Ghibli movie, their hair will start standing on end, and you'll see like this vibration go through their body as if they are immediately... Yeah, you've seen this in like Kiki's Delivery Service and all that, where they, like, their hair starts standing up a little bit and they get a little bit more poised. And in Raftalia's case, her tail went straight, so she has a little raccoon tail in the back, and where the drunken trunk is, and and it goes just straight, standing on end. It almost resembles something else.
Yes, I know what you're
That's why I'm saying she's having a tail erection. So at that point, like, she's pulling a Studio Ghibli, but she's also having a tail erection. And what makes this interesting, so she's very afraid of this guy. And even when she's going up to confront him, you see she still has a tail erection, which means she's still very much afraid of the guy, that he's going to do something to hurt her. And she goes up, confronts him, and just shows herself to be the absolute total badass that she is. I swear at the end of this, when we do a stream kind of covering these things, I am going to give her the Samus Aran Badass Motherfucker Award for being a total badass motherfucker. Because the only thing that rivals her is having big muscly Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator, all right? That's the way it is. And she actually has a sword to his throat at one point in this, and she gets the Batman decision. Should she kill him, or should she let him live? Now, I'm going to ask you honestly, which decision did you want her to make?
I think I wouldn't...
Go ahead, I'm listening.
I probably wouldn't have wanted to see... Well, even though she probably would have had the justified means of killing him, but I know she probably wouldn't do it.
So let me give it this way. We have the Batman answer, and we have the Joker answer. And the Batman answer is, he lives. The Joker answer is, he dies.
I don't think she would. I would.
So Batman answer. Mm-hmm. She pulled the Batman moment. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. Even when I watched this the first time, I'm like, Joker answer! Joker answer! Just kill this mofo! But I was also very proud of her that she did the Batman answer. Mm-hmm. Like, that she didn't try to kill him. Because usually what happens in cases like this is that he will lash out, and then she will defend herself, and then he will kill himself in his own bad decisions, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is what happens here. He basically disarms her, to which she pulls out the mana sword that she also... That was the other thing we forgot to mention with Mine. Another badass moment with Raftalia. She snuck off, and then when Mine is about to release that fireball, she stabs her right through the boobs with the mana sword, and then the fireball goes away. That was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, so
like that mana sword is paying for itself in dividends, man.
So what is the purpose of the mana sword?
It doesn't attack life. It attacks mana. So at that point, like, basically the way to look at it is that when she hits somebody with it, like, their mana goes away. So they can't cast spells. And that's the same thing that happens here, too, he was trying to cast a spell or something like that, and she stabs him with the mana sword, and then immediately he kind of steps back because of that stab and falls through the window.
So now she doesn't have to feel any guilt for...
No, she chose the Batman answer.
Yep.
I still wanted her to go for the Joker answer, but I'm happy that she went with the Batman answer. Besides, this guy will get his near the end of this episode. And after that's taken care of, before they even confront him, they find the stairway to the basement, which immediately Raphtalia is like, I have to go down here. I have to face whatever's down here. Now, Naofumi says we have another priority. Let's go save Melty, and now he's saying, let's go back and deal with this.
But I really liked that one scene when they were looking for Philo, but she was in hiding.
Oh, you mean when Melty gave herself up?
Yeah.
Yeah, because she told her to go play hide and seek, and she went into the attic, and Melty never went and looked for her.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Philo is the most gullible... I can't say the word. She is just freaking naive, and that's one of the reasons I don't like her.
That was funny though.
Not only that, but I also have to deal with the Motoyasu moments when he wants her. So we have this, and this is where the episode gets super depressing, because this is where we learn a lot of that. So funniest thing is, remember how I said that that creepy dude had a fetish for hearing girls cry out in pain when he tortured them? He never got that ever from Raphtalia. Because Raphtalia's dad told her before he died that, whenever things get bad, you have to wear a smile. You have to smile because it will help you get through it, and it will help others get through it, right?
Yeah.
And so when she was getting tortured, we find out that Raphtalia smiled through the whole thing. It's moments like these that always make me think back to Street Fighter, the live action movie, where E Honda is getting tortured, and basically like he's had numerous like, I can't remember what they're called. There's like Thailand death sticks cracked over his back, and he's just like sitting here going, okay, whatever. Look at me, so you get the concept. Like nothing's bothering him. And then when they free them, they actually look at him and go, "Why can you do that?" He's like, "I'm sumo, brother. My mind can be in one place. My body can be in one place, my mind another." And so at that point, like, he never gave them the satisfaction of screams or anything like that. And that is always the way you should go when you have douchebags like that. So I like the fact they did it. But unfortunately, Rifana didn't do that. And she was tortured a lot. And it turns out that because she got tortured a lot, because of that, Rifana got sick. I'm presuming that this is the same illness that Raphtalia had when Naofumi cured her. And they didn't have that. And unfortunately, Rifana just has no strength. They haven't been feeding them. They've been torturing them. So all she's basically hoping for is, like, from the beginning, she's always wanted to meet one of the 4 cardinal heroes because she wants one of them to marry her.
And she definitely won.
Yeah, Rifana was like the one that was the more girly of the two. Is it safe to say Raphtalia was kind of the tomboy? Like, she hadn't really given thought to that.
Yeah, she didn't seem like she ever thought about that.
And in fact, she was the one that said, well, I would especially like to meet the shield hero, and part of that is because Raphtalia's dad spoke well of the shield hero. And then we have these moments where Rifana and Raphtalia are trying to motivate each other to get through the next day. And we find out that one of the last things that Rifana wants, now that she's super sick, is she wants to go back to their village and she wants to meet the shield hero so that she can be asked to marry him, kind of thing. So you have that little girl moment of that little girl fantasy, and Raphtalia is trying to keep her spirits up. Flash forward to the present. They are going through all the cells to free all the demi-humans that are down there and heal them and feed them and everything like that. And they even come across one of the little boys in, I want to say his name is Keel, in Raftalia's village. And he recognizes Raftalia after seeing her grow up and, you know, just kind of explains, like, this is what we've been dealing with. And immediately Rifana gets brought up. And that's when Keel can't look Raftalia in the eye. And you almost kind of see a tear kind of building up in his eye. And she just runs off. And then he tries to explain what happened down here to the shield hero. And then we hear a humongous scream, or basically a woe, coming from Raftalia. And she has discovered Rifana's body.
Or remains of her.
Yeah, well, remains of her body.
Mm-hmm.
Because she died here, probably of that illness. And she has... she's basically a skeleton at that point. Which is probably the better way to go about this, because I'm guessing if we actually wanted to add in decomposition, it probably would have been a lot more of a gruesome scene, wouldn't it? So it's probably a good idea that, you know, we just got to see bones. And the way that she knows that it's Rifana is, one of the things Rifana says that she wanted to see was the flag that they had in their home village. And in order to bring up Rifana's spirits, Raftalia made a little flag to keep her spirits up. And this skeleton is holding that flag. And so immediately, Raftalia is in death throes. She's inconsolable at that point. And everybody is pretty much inconsolable because, you know, now we know that this is her best friend. And unfortunately, there's no healing at that point. And so you kind of deal with a huge crisis of character for Raftalia. Basically feeling like she never did enough to be able to come back and free Raftalia. And we've seen in her history, like, she basically got dragged off to the slave market in the capital, where eventually she met Naofumi. So there was really nothing she could have done, but she's blaming herself for this. And Naofumi, much like in episode 4, where Raftalia is being that comfort to Naofumi, Naofumi steps in and is that comfort to Raftalia.
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel about that reverse moment?
It was a heartwarming, you know.
It's one of those
heartfelt, warming.
It was one of those softer moments for Naofumi. And I think it was very much needed, considering how dependent those two have become upon each other. And I know that you took it especially hard because, you know, this is a heavily emotional moment.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to confess it that you cried? I'm guaranteeing you did.
It was that close.
Nah, I think you did. But for good reason. And the episode kind of ends with them gathering up Rifana's remains and leaving the dungeon with all of the demi-humans they freed. And Raftalia just kind of remembering all the good moments with Rifana. And I'm guessing that they're going to go and find a place to bury her. And that's pretty much how this episode ends. So with that, what was the best moment of the episode?
I think just
Raftalia's correct as a character. For me, character development is a big thing. And whenever you show that, especially when you show, like, we've been calling Raftalia badass this whole time. But when you show that rock has some damage to it, it gives you more relatability to that character. Because Raftalia is anything but stoic. Or she's not stoic. She's not keeping her emotions in. She wears them on her sleeve. And this was a moment where, you know, she got to see how damaged Naofumi was. I think it was only appropriate for Naofumi to see how damaged she was. And so I like that moment. It endears the characters. And makes them relatable. It makes you want to be connected to them.
Mm-hmm.
So for you?
Probably just the whole thing when she's just broken down, and now for me was just trying to
So the crisis of character.
Mm-hmm. That was just the best moment.
Okay, so I will give it another good moment because we'll let you have that one. When Creepy Dude died, and he died of his own consequences. That's always so satisfying.
Yeah, by resurrecting a T-Rex.
Well, we need to get to that in a minute, but because I want to save that for the last little bit because it's another cliffhanger. But the fact that he went through the window and basically killed himself, like he was the folly of his own mistakes. I like that. It's always much more satisfying to see a villain die by their own twisted hand than to see the hero do it. I know that a lot of people will say, like, well, then the hero didn't do it. Yeah, but the hero, in some cases, shouldn't do it. Because that sullies the hero's hands. And it's much more interesting to have, because Disney does this very, very well. Where they have the villain die by his own hand. And because they don't want to sully the hero's hands. And so they've always found a way to have the villain kill himself. Or herself.
But yeah, and
they have pulled the trigger before. There are a few cases, but then you have moments like one of the best examples, Clayton from Tarzan, where he basically hangs himself. So yeah, I like that instead because it's a much more symbolic thing. The hero doesn't have to sully their hands, and then the hero or the villain has to die from their own evil, sadistic actions. Kind of thing.
Or even in Beauty and the Beast where Gaston falls to his death. Basically.
Yeah, it just works better that way. Another one is Judge Claude Frollo, where he dies from falling from Notre Dame, but the last thing that he sees is the gargoyle that he's holding on to starts having red eyes and a red mouth, almost as if saying, yeah, I'm going to take you to hell, and Frollo dies because of that. Because of his fear.
Yeah.
So those are great moments because they just show that the villain basically succumbed to his own dogmas, to his own evil actions. So I like that better. So worst moment.
I don't think there were really too many worst moments, really. I mean, it was just all...
I'm thinking. Sorry.
I can't even think of anything that seemed, like, negative.
See, some people might say, like, Naofumi getting up to Creepy Dude, but I love how he does it. He's like, hey, I poisoned you with a very potent poison. I have the antidote. You want to lead me to you want to take me to your leader now? I like that. But I have a strong feeling that some people would have issues with that. Maybe even have issues with the fact that Raftalia couldn't kill him and therefore couldn't kill Creepy Dude and therefore had him lash out. I could see that, but
I don't think that was that bad. I mean,
no, it's not a weak part of the episode. If it's considered weak, it's only because of all the other impacts.
Unless you just don't like the whole tail going stiff like that.
Maybe. So yeah, there you go. And then out of 5 stars, what would we give this?
I'll probably give it a 4.5.
4.5.
Just because it was great. Even though it was maybe filler episode, really, but it's just
no. But Raftalia's backstory was very helpful.
Yeah, very pivotal to.
Yeah, it makes Raftalia a lot more believable and relatable as a character, so I like it. And yes, as you mentioned, this episode also does end on a cliffhanger because turns out Creepy Dude survived the fall. Please, somebody tell me how please explain to me how he survived that fall.
Maybe he was a zombie chicken.
And one of the things we've noticed in his mansion is there's this weird monument, this weird obelisk that's just out in the middle of the courtyard. And it turns out that the previous Cardinal Heroes sealed an ancient demon here. And so in order to prove his faith to his god, Creepy Dude breaks the seal and brings out a diamond-studded T-Rex. It's a weird design. It's like a dragon with diamond spikes coming out of it. And the best part about this whole thing is we get the Jurassic Park moment where, just like when the T-Rex ate the lawyer, Creepy Dude is then stomped on by the demon he just released.
Would have been better.
That's a villain getting his comeuppance right there. I like that. I mean, granted, T-Rex eating the lawyer was better, but yeah, that was a good moment. So that's basically hinting into episode 16, where I'm guessing we will deal with this demon. But that's going to go ahead and do it here. So overall, good episodes this time, right?
Yeah.
And also I love the fact that we got a new opening for it because it showcases the current party of Philo, Melty, Raftalia, and Naofumi, and they are all badasses. Maybe we'll talk about that theme next time, but thank you guys so much for joining us on this. Thank you so much for your continued support. If you guys want to be able to continue to support the podcast, you can do so at the RSS feed, because not only do we have Geek News Marathon Night and Geek News Anime Night of Fruits Basket Season 3, we've also done Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood as a marathon night and G Gundam as a marathon night. So you guys can check those out, as well as Geek News Movie Night and some of the roundtables that we've already been doing for the podcast itself, including assessing streaming platforms' survivability in 2022. And this will be coming up very soon, the future of esports and the communities that support them. So please support the RSS feed by going to geekynro.libsyn.com, or support us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, and Player.fm. We appreciate that. And when we come back next time, we will be tackling episodes 16 through 18 of Rising of the Shield Hero Season 1. We'll see you guys then.